sewer. Right now, you may want kindness, but still feel your body preparing for hurt. Maybe someone has spoken gently to you, and instead of relaxing, something inside you became alert. Maybe someone offered help, and your first feeling was not relief, but suspicion. Maybe a soft message appeared on your phone, a compliment, an apology, a patient word, and before warmth could reach you, the mind began searching for what might be hidden behind it. What do they want? How long will this last? When will their voice change? What will this cost me later? Maybe you have felt this too, dear friend. The ache of longing to be cared for, while also fearing the moment care comes close. The sadness of wanting to lean into tenderness, but finding your heart already leaning away. It can feel confusing. You may wonder why you cannot simply receive what seems kind. You may judge yourself for doubting good intentions. You may feel ashamed that love, patience, and warmth do not always feel safe at first. But tonight, let this be said softly. You are not broken. What you are feeling is not failure. A guarded heart is not an ungrateful heart. A cautious body is not a cold body. A person who flinches near kindness is not rejecting love because they are cruel. Often, they are protecting a place that once learned softness could change without warning. Perhaps there was a time when tenderness came with conditions. Perhaps someone was warm one day and punishing the next. Perhaps affection was given, then withdrawn. Perhaps help became control. Perhaps apologies arrived like rain on dry soil, but the same harm returned again and again. Perhaps you learned that the hand offering comfort might later become the hand that shamed you for needing it. And so now, even when the room is quiet, the body remembers, even under a blanket, even with your head on a pillow, even in dim light with the night air cool against your face. Some part of you may still be watching, waiting, listening for the change in tone, waiting for the kindness to become a debt, waiting for the warmth to ask for something in return. Let the room around you become very simple now. Feel the blanket where it touches your body. Maybe it is heavy near the legs, lighter near the chest. Maybe it has gathered around your side, holding warmth in uneven folds. Feel the pillow beneath your head, not demanding trust, only offering support. Let the dim light, if there is one, remain soft. Let the moonlight, if you imagine it, rest quietly on the wall or near the window, pale and patient, not trying to enter too quickly. There may be distant sounds, a vehicle far away, a soft tapping somewhere in the building, the faint hum of the world continuing beyond this room. Let those sounds come and go without needing your attention. They do not need you to prepare. They do not need you to explain. They do not need you to protect yourself from them. If it feels right, take a slow breath. Not a breath that forces peace, only a breath that lets the body know you are here with it. Let the breath enter gently. Let it leave without hurry. And as it leaves, perhaps allow the jaw to loosen by the smallest amount. Let the tongue rest. Let the space around the eyes soften. Your eyes have watched for danger for a long time. They have read faces, messages, silences, pauses, tiny changes in someone's mood. Let them rest back into the darkness for a moment. They do not have to search this room for hidden harm. Let the shoulders feel the quiet invitation to lower. Maybe they cannot lower much. That is all right. Nothing needs to be forced. Nothing is required of you. Now, you do not have to solve your whole life tonight. You do not have to decide who is safe forever, who is not safe forever, who deserves trust, who does not, what every kindness means, or whether your heart should open or close. Tonight is much gentler than that. Tonight, we will not force the mind to be silent. We will not force the heart to trust. We will not pull open the guarded places as if healing were another kind of invasion. Tonight, we will simply sit near warmth. That may be enough. Here is the quiet paradox Buddhist wisdom offers with great tenderness. The heart does not become free by forcing itself to trust. It becomes free when it can meet its fear with compassion and receive warmth one small breath at a time. This is not blind trust. It is not naivety. It is not ignoring the wisdom of your experience. Buddhist wisdom does not ask you to step into harm and call it peace. It asks something subtler. It asks whether the past must continue deciding that all warmth is danger. It asks whether protection can become so tight that it begins to keep out the very kindness your tired heart needs. Imagine, just for a moment, a pair of hands that have been out in winter too long. Cold hands do not open easily. Their fingers curl inward. Their skin grows stiff. When warmth first returns, it may even sting. The sting does not mean the warmth is harmful. It means the hands have been cold for a long time. Maybe your heart is like that. Not damaged beyond repair, not unloving. Only cold from old winters. And kindness, when it comes near, can feel like a small bundle of warm rice wrapped in cloth, simple, humble, steaming softly, not asking the hands to open all at once, not demanding to be eaten, not demanding gratitude, only resting close enough that warmth can be felt through fabric. You do not have to take it yet. You do not have to trust it yet. You do not have to explain why warmth makes you uncertain. You may simply let it be nearby. Perhaps this is all the guarded heart can do at first. Let kindness remain near without pushing it away immediately. Let one gentle word exist without testing it from every angle. Let one offer of care touch the edge of the body without turning it into a contract. Let one moment of patience be one moment of patience, not proof of a future danger. Maybe there is a place in you that says, no, do not relax. We have relaxed before, and then we were hurt. Do not receive too much. Do not believe too quickly. Do not show need. Do not enjoy gentleness, because losing it will hurt more. Let that voice be heard, but not obeyed completely. It is trying to protect you. It may be frightened. It may be young. It may remember things the thinking mind would rather not revisit tonight. So do not fight it. Do not shame it. Do not call it difficult. You might simply say inwardly, I understand why you are careful. And then breathe. Because carefulness is allowed. But endless coldness is not the only way to survive. You are safe enough to soften a little. Not completely. Not forever. Not beyond your own wisdom. Only enough to notice the warmth near your hands. Maybe right now, you can feel your palms. They may be open or closed, warm or cool, resting on the blanket beside your body, or folded near you. Let them become quiet. Let them become ordinary hands, no longer needing to push away every possible tenderness before it reaches you. Imagine that somewhere in this soft room, a small cloth bundle has been placed nearby. Inside is warm rice, just cooked, holding heat gently. The cloth around it is faded blue, worn from many mornings, clean and soft. Steam does not rise sharply. It only gathers faintly, like a breath. The bundle does not move toward you. It does not insist. It waits. This is kindness without pressure. This is warmth without demand. This is care that does not need to conquer your fear. And perhaps, in a moment, we will walk into a misty hilltown market at the beginning of winter, where a young porter, with cold hands, will learn that not every offering is a chain. But before that story comes near, let your body know it does not have to defend itself from this night. Let the back of your body feel supported. Let the forehead smooth. Let the throat loosen around the words you never had to say perfectly. Let the chest be as guarded as it needs to be, but not hated for guarding. Let the belly soften if it can. Let the legs grow heavier. Let the breath move in. Let the breath move out. There is no rush. Healing does not need to break through the door. It can sit outside with warm rice, wrapped in cloth, waiting until your hands are ready. Dear friend, if kindness has frightened you, there was probably a reason. If gentleness makes you suspicious, your body may be remembering a time when gentleness did not stay gentle. If care feels difficult to receive, it does not mean you do not want love. It may mean you have wanted it so deeply that your heart became afraid of losing it again. Tonight, we do not need to argue with that fear. We only need to make a little space around it. Space for breath, space for warmth, space for the possibility that not every tenderness belongs to the old story. And perhaps, for now, the beginning of peace is not opening the whole heart. Perhaps it is simply allowing one small warmth to remain near your closed hands without running away. Sir, in the hill town of Yora, winter did not arrive all at once. It came first, as a silver edge on the rooftops before sunrise. Then, as mist in the stone lanes. Then, as a coldness that entered through sleeves, through cracked doorways, through the space between one breath and the next. By the time the market bells rang in the morning, frost had already gathered on the wooden carts, and the first vendors moved through the narrow streets with their shoulders lifted against the air. This was where Nima worked. She was a porter in the morning market, known for carrying what others could not or would not carry. Baskets of turnips still wet with soil, bundles of firewood tied with reed rope, clay jars of pickled radish, sacks of millet, crates of winter pears wrapped in straw. She was small in build, but strong from habit, with quick feet and eyes that noticed where a path would clear before it cleared. People called to her before the sun rose fully. Nima, take this to the upper stall. Nima, help me move these before the buyers come. Nima, watch that cart. The wheel is loose, she answered with a nod, rarely more. She did not complain. She did not ask for help. She did not linger when someone thanked her. If a merchant tried to give her an extra coin, she counted it carefully, suspicious of mistakes that might later be turned against her. If someone offered tea, she refused. If someone said, "Your hands must be freezing," she pulled her sleeves lower and walked away. Her hands were always cold, not only because of the weather. There are kinds of coldness that begin in the skin, and kinds that begin much deeper. Nima had learned young that kindness could arrive smiling and leave with a debt. An uncle, who fed her after her mother died, reminded her of the meal for years. A neighbor, who once bought her sandals, told everyone she was ungrateful when the sandals no longer fit. A merchant's wife, who called her dear child, later accused her of stealing when a coin went missing, though it was found under a mat before evening. So Nima learned, take only what is earned, trust only what is counted. Do not be warmed by hands that may later point at you. By the time she was grown, she could lift heavy baskets through the crowded market, but she could not easily receive a gentle word. At the corner, where the stone lane widened near the east gate an elderly woman named Old Meiji sold rice in small cloth bundles. She had no large stall, only a low wooden crate, a round bamboo steamer, and a charcoal pot that glowed red beneath the morning mist. Her back was bent, and her hair was wrapped in a grey scarf. Her hands moved slowly, but nothing she touched seemed rushed. She would scoop warm rice onto a square of cloth, add a pinch of salt and sesame, fold the corners inward, and tie the bundle with a soft twist. Some cloths were brown, some were white. Some had been mended many times. The blue ones were faded almost to the color of winter sky. People came to her not only because the rice was good, but because she never hurried anyone. Children stood near the steam to warm their cheeks. Old men bought one bundle and ate it over many small bites. Farmers carried the rice under their jackets as they walked into the fields, letting it warm their ribs before eating. Meiji noticed Nima on the first very cold morning of that winter. The young porter was carrying 2 baskets of daikon radishes, one against each hip. Her fingers were red from the handles. Mist clung to her hair. When she set the baskets down near the vegetable stall, she flexed her hands quickly, as if pain were something she could shake out before anyone saw. Old Meiji folded a bundle of rice into faded blue cloth. When Nima passed, Meiji held it out. "For your hands," she said. Nima stopped, only because the woman had stepped partly into her path. "I did not order rice. I know. I have no coin for it. I did not ask for coin." Nima's eyes narrowed. The bundle steamed faintly in Meiji's palm. Its warmth was visible in the cold air, not as smoke, but as a soft breath rising from the cloth. "I do not take gifts," Nima said. "Then do not take it as a gift. What else would it be?" "Warmth," said Meiji. Nima almost laughed, but there was no humor in her face. "Warmth is never only warmth." Old Meiji looked at her for a moment, not with surprise and not with pity, but with a kind of listening that made Nima uncomfortable. Then Meiji lowered the bundle and placed it on the edge of the wooden crate. "It can sit here," she said. "I told you I do not want it. I heard you. And if it goes cold, then it goes cold." Nima stood there, caught between irritation and something she did not want to name. Around them the market continued waking. A bell rang from the mule path. Someone poured water over a wooden board. Steam rose from a noodle stall. A cartwheel squealed, the smell of ginger, smoke, wet wool, root vegetables, and warm rice mingled in the mist. Nima turned away. All morning she worked. She carried turnips to the north stall. She lifted sacks of millet into a storeroom. She helped an old man pull a stuck cartwheel from a rut where melted frost had made the mud slippery. She moved quickly, but each time she passed the east gate, her eyes found the blue bundle resting on Meiji's crate. It was still there. At first, she felt angry at it. It seemed too patient, too certain of itself, too willing to wait without explaining its purpose. Then she felt annoyed that Meiji had not called after her, had not insisted, had not acted wounded by refusal. People who gave things often wanted to be seen giving. They wanted gratitude at once, like a coin pressed into their palm. But Meiji only continued folding rice for others. A boy came with 3 copper coins and left with 2 bundles. One tucked into his coat for his grandmother. A woman carrying firewood bought a bundle and held it between both hands before eating. A blind musician received one from Meiji, without coin, bowed once, and sat under the eaves to warm his fingers before playing. No one was scolded, no one was reminded, no one was bound by invisible rope. Nima did not understand this. Near midday, When the mist lifted and the sun shone weakly on the wet stone, a child ran through the market carrying a pouch of coins. He slipped near the radish stall, and the pouch opened. Copper pieces scattered across the lane, rolling beneath baskets and between feet. Without thinking, Nima set down the bundle she was carrying and crouched. Her hands moved fast. She gathered the coins before they could disappear into cracks between the stones. She reached under a cart, found 2 more, and placed them in the child's pouch. The child looked at her with wide, grateful eyes. "Thank you," he said. It was only a small voice, only 2 words. But Nima felt her body flinch, as if something had come too close. She stood too quickly. "Hold them properly next time," she said. The child nodded and ran away. When Nima turned, old Meiji was watching from the rice crate. Nima's face hardened. "What?" Meiji did not answer immediately. She folded another cloth over warm rice, pressing the corners together with her thumbs. Then she asked, "When did warmth begin to feel like a rope around your wrist?" The question was quiet, not sharp, not clever. It did not expose her loudly. It simply opened a small space in the air between them. Nima looked away. "I have work," she said. "Yes," said Meiji. But this time, when Nima walked away, the question walked with her. "When did warmth begin to feel like a rope around your wrist?" She carried baskets. She moved jars. She lifted sacks, but the words remained near the back of her mind, not accusing her, only sitting there like the blue bundle on the crate, patient, unmoved. By afternoon, the market thinned. The stone lanes grew damp again as the sun lowered behind the hill. Vendors packed unsold vegetables. The charcoal pot beneath Meiji's steamer glowed less brightly. Nima returned a cart to the lower road and paused near the east gate. Though no one had called her, the blue bundle was still there. It no longer steamed. But when a wind moved through the lane, Nima imagined it must still hold some warmth inside. Old Meiji sat on a low stool rubbing her fingers. "You left it there all day," Nima said. "Yes. Why?" "Because you said you did not want to take it. That does not answer why you kept it." Meiji looked down at the bundle. "Some warmth is not ready to be received when it is first offered." Nima felt something tighten behind her ribs. "If I take it now," she said, "what will you ask?" Meiji's eyes lifted. "Nothing. Everyone asks something. Perhaps everyone you remember." The words landed softly, but they touched a bruise. Nima wanted to say that Meiji knew nothing about her. She wanted to say that old women with warm rice could afford to speak gently, because no one had taught them how quickly gentleness could become a hook. She wanted to say that she had survived by not taking what could later be used to pull her back. But when she opened her mouth, nothing came. Her hands hurt from the day's work. The cold had entered the joints of her fingers. She looked at the blue cloth folded around the rice, small and ordinary. Without promise, without pressure, it did not reach for her. It did not follow her down the lane. It did not accuse her of pride. It did not call her ungrateful. It only waited. Nima stepped closer. She did not eat it. She did not thank Meiji. She only picked up the cloth bundle and held it between both hands. The warmth was faint now, but still present. It moved through the blue cloth slowly, not enough to burn. Burn, not enough to overwhelm, only enough to let her feel how cold her fingers had become. A strange ache rose in her throat. Not hunger, not exactly sadness, recognition. She realized she had refused many things before she had even touched them. A cup of tea, a kind look, a place near a fire, a gentle question, a child, "Thank you." She had believed she was protecting herself from hidden ropes, hidden debts, hidden hands that would tighten later. And perhaps sometimes she had been, but not always. Not every warmth had been a chain. Not every kindness had been waiting to close, her fingers curled around the bundle. Old Meiji said nothing. The market grew quiet around them. A bell sounded from somewhere beyond the east gate. The last mist of the day began to rise again from the stones. Nima stood there, with the warm rice in her hands. Not healed, not suddenly trusting, not changed into someone easy and open. But for one breath, she did not put it down. For one breath, she let warmth remain. Sure, and maybe, dear friend, there is something in Nima's hands that your own heart understands. Not because your life is a market lane in winter, or because someone has placed warm rice before you in faded blue cloth, but because you may know the feeling of warmth becoming suspicious before it can become comfort. You may know what it is to want care and fear care at the same time. You may know how quickly the body can close around itself when someone speaks softly, offers help, or stays patient in a moment when you expected them to turn away. This story is not telling us to trust everyone. It is not asking us to ignore what we have learned. It is not asking us to become open in ways that make us unsafe. It is showing us something quieter. It is showing us the difference between wise protection and old fear, continuing to guard a door, even when the danger is no longer standing there. Nima's refusal was not foolish. It came from somewhere real. She had known kindness that left a mark. She had known gifts that became chains. She had known warmth that later demanded repayment with shame, obedience, silence, or gratitude beyond what the heart could honestly give. So when old Meiji offered rice, Nima was not only seeing rice, she was seeing every old hand that had offered something, and later used the offering to pull her closer than she wanted to be. This is how pain teaches the body. The mind may forget details, but the body remembers patterns. A certain tone, a certain softness before disappointment, a certain offer that sounds generous but feels like a hook. And then, even when a new kindness arrives without those old intentions, the body may prepare for the old ending. The suffering was not only in what happened long ago, it was also in the way the past had kept entering every new moment before the new moment had a chance to reveal itself. Buddhist wisdom helps us see this. Without blame, it does not say, you should be over this. It does not say, if you were wise, you would trust easily. It simply invites us to notice how the mind creates a second wound after the first wound has already happened. The first pain is that someone's kindness was not safe. Someone's affection changed into control. Someone's help became a debt. Someone's apology became a way to avoid real change. Someone's tenderness disappeared when you needed it most. That pain is real. It deserves respect. It deserves protection. It deserves the kind of honesty that says, yes, that hurt, and yes, it taught me to be careful. But then the second pain begins when the mind decides that all warmth must be dangerous. All kindness must hide a cost. All gentleness must eventually become disappointment. All closeness must end in the same old ache. This second pain tries to keep you safe, but it also keeps you cold. It keeps the hands curled inward. And perhaps this is where attachment appears in a subtle form. We often think of attachment as clinging to someone we love or clinging to something we want. But sometimes the heart becomes attached to protection itself, attached to distance, attached to suspicion, attached to the feeling of being unreachable because unreachable once felt safer than being hurt again. Suspicion can become familiar. Distance can feel like control. Refusing warmth can feel like strength. But what protects us in one season may imprison us in another. Cold hands curl inward to survive the cold. But if they remain closed when warmth returns, they cannot receive what might help them thaw. This does not mean you must open quickly. A hand forced open is not a healed hand. A heart forced to trust is not a peaceful heart. Letting go here does not mean dropping discernment. It means loosening the grip around the old conclusion that says kindness always becomes pain. Letting go means allowing one moment to be seen as one moment. One gentle word to be one gentle word. One offer of help to be examined with wisdom, not automatically condemned by memory. It means you can keep your eyes open without living, as if every warm thing is fire. Mindfulness is what makes this possible. Mindfulness in this kind of healing is not emptying the mind or becoming perfectly calm. It is the quiet recognition. My body is bracing. My chest has tightened. My hands are closing. A kind word has arrived, and fear has arrived. With it, the old story is reaching forward. The old winter is touching this new warmth. To notice this is already a soft freedom, because before noticing, you may simply react. You may reject help before you feel your need. You may dismiss praise before it can enter. You may test someone's patience until they become tired, and then believe their tiredness proves what you feared. You may pull away from kindness, then grieve that no one stays close. But when awareness comes near, even gently, there is a breath between fear and action. In that breath, you do not have to accept everything. You also do not have to reject everything. You can pause. You can feel the cloth around the rice. You can let warmth be near the hands before deciding what it means. This is very different from forcing trust. Trust is not a command you give to the heart. Trust grows through repeated experiences of safety, honesty, patience, and respect. If your heart has not had enough of those experiences, it may need time. It may need proof. Slowly. Not because it is dramatic, but because it is wise enough to know that words alone are not the whole truth. So if kindness feels unsafe, perhaps the first practice is not to open completely. Perhaps the first practice is to stop shaming yourself for being guarded. Compassion begins there. Passion says, of course you flinched. Of course you wondered what it would cost. Of course, warmth made you uneasy if warmth once came with punishment. Of course you learned to hold your hands close. You were trying to protect something tender. And compassion also says, dear one, protection does not have to remain frozen forever. The Buddha pointed again and again toward the way suffering grows when we cling to fixed views, not only fixed views about the world, but fixed views about ourselves and about what is possible. The guarded heart may hold a fixed view that says, I am safer alone, or people always change, or kindness is the beginning of control, or if I need someone, I will lose myself. Maybe these views were born from real experience. They may contain a piece of truth. But Buddhist wisdom asks whether a piece of truth has become the whole sky. Impermanence reminds us that conditions change. People are not all the same person. Every offer is not the old offer. Every gentle voice is not the voice that once became cruel. Every moment of care is not guaranteed to vanish in the way. Care vanished before the past shaped you, but it does not have to be the only sculptor of your future. Still, This is slow. It must be slow. Cold hands do not become warm by being shoved into flame. They warm by nearness, through cloth, through patience, through a heat that does not demand immediate opening. That is why old Maiji did not chase Nima down the lane. She did not say, "You should be grateful." She did not turn the rice into proof of her own goodness. She placed it nearby and let it remain. The rice did not become a debt because Maiji did not make it one. The warmth did not become control because it was allowed to wait. There is a deep teaching in this. Kindness that pressures the guarded heart to open may feel like another form of invasion, but kindness that can wait. Kindness that respects the pace of the wound. Kindness that does not demand performance in return, gives the heart a chance to discover something new. Perhaps you have needed this kind of kindness. Not the loud kind that insists it knows what you need. Not the impatient kind that becomes offended when you do not trust quickly. Not the kind that says, "After all, I have done for you. Why are you still afraid?" But the kind that can sit near the closed hands and say, "You do not have to eat yet. You do not have to thank yet. You do not have to explain your coldness. I will not turn my offering into a rope." And perhaps, slowly, you can begin to offer this kindness to yourself. When you receive a soft message and suspicion rises, you can notice the suspicion without becoming cruel toward yourself. When someone compliments you and you want to reject it, you can pause and let the words rest nearby. When someone offers help and the body stiffens, you can breathe before deciding. When affection makes you afraid, you can whisper inwardly, "This is the old winter speaking. I do not have to hate it. I do not have to obey it completely. This is awareness becoming warm. This is compassion, touching the places that suspicion has been guarding. And little by little, the heart may learn that receiving does not always mean surrendering your wisdom. You can receive slowly and still remain discerning. You can let warmth come close and still keep your boundaries. You can appreciate a kind gesture without promising your whole trust. You can say yes to a small kindness and still say no to control. You can let rice warm your hands without handing your life to the person who offered it. This is the middle way for a guarded heart. Not isolation, not blind trust, a patient nearness to warmth, a willingness to test reality gently instead of letting memory answer every question in advance. Maybe not today, not fully, not all at once, but one breath, one softened hand, one moment when you do not immediately push away what is gentle, one moment when you allow kindness to be present without forcing yourself to decide whether it will last forever. And this is where healing begins to feel possible. Not because the past is erased, not because fear disappears, but because fear is no longer the only one allowed to speak. Warmth may speak too, the body may listen, and for one quiet breath, like Nima in the fading market mist, you may hold something gentle without knowing yet what it means. So perhaps, for these next few moments, you do not have to decide whether the world is safe. You do not have to decide whether a person can be trusted forever. You do not have to examine every kind word you have ever received, every broken promise, every apology that did not change anything, every moment when warmth became confusing. Let this be much smaller than that. Let it become only this body, this breath, this night, and one small place inside you where kindness has felt difficult to receive. If it feels right, bring your attention gently to the breath. Not to make the breath deeper, not to make the mind quiet by force, only to notice that the breath is already here, moving in its own patient way. It enters the body without asking you to trust it. It leaves the body without demanding that you understand it. Breath is a simple visitor. It does not argue with your guardedness. It does not shame the places that still feel cold. Let the inhale come as it comes. Let the exhale go as it goes. Perhaps the breath touches the chest only lightly. Perhaps it moves lower into the belly. Perhaps it feels uneven tonight. Whatever it is, let it be enough. There is no need to force this. There is no need to turn relaxation into another task you must perform correctly. Now, slowly, notice the body. Feel the forehead. Maybe it has been alert for a long time, trying to read signs before harm arrives. Let the forehead soften if it can. Feel the eyes resting in the face. They have searched faces, messages, pauses, silences. They have looked for the moment warmth might turn. Let them rest now, in the dimness, no longer required to interpret the whole world tonight. Feel the jaw. Perhaps the jaw has held back questions like, can I believe you? Will you stay gentle? Are you angry beneath that kindness? What do you want from me? Let the jaw loosen a little. Not because the questions are wrong, but because the body does not have to hold them so tightly in this moment. Feel the throat. Maybe there is a small tightness there. The place where gratitude sometimes gets stuck. The place where need feels dangerous to speak. The place where you have wanted to say thank you, but also wanted to step away. Let that place be met softly. No need to open it. No need to explain it. Even noticing is enough. Feel the chest. This may be where the guarded heart lives most clearly. Perhaps it is closed, careful, folded inward. Perhaps it feels protected by an old winter. Do not push against it. Do not ask it to bloom because a meditation told it to. A guarded heart is not a bad heart. It is a heart that learned to survive. You might say inwardly, very gently, I see why you close. And then breathe. Let the breath move near the closed place, not into it by force, only near it. Like warm steam passing close to cold fingers. Now bring awareness to the hands. Perhaps your hands are resting on the blanket. Perhaps they are near your sides. Perhaps they are folded together. Feel the palms, the fingers, the tiny sensations there. Warmth, coolness, heaviness, tingling, numbness, nothing at all. Let the hands become the center of this practice for a while. Imagine that these hands have been out in winter, not because they did anything wrong, not because they chose coldness, only because life, they learned to curl inward. They learned that closing could protect them from more cold. They learned not to reach too quickly, not to accept too easily, not to trust every flame, and maybe, after a while, the curled shape began to feel like home. Now, in the quiet room of imagination, picture a small cloth bundle resting nearby. It is not in your hands yet. It does not arrive suddenly. It simply sits close enough to be noticed. Inside, the faded blue cloth is warm rice, cooked slowly, holding a gentle heat. The cloth is soft from being washed many times. It is clean, but not new. It has the tenderness of something ordinary, something that does not need to impress you. A little warmth gathers inside it. Not sharp, not burning, not demanding. Just enough warmth to be there. You do not have to pick it up. You do not have to accept it. You do not have to be grateful. You do not have to trust where it came from. For now, perhaps, you can only let it exist near you. Notice what happens in the body when warmth is nearby. Maybe some part of you leans toward it. Maybe another part pulls back. Maybe the mind says, be careful. Maybe the chest tightens. Maybe the hands want to close more. This is all allowed. Nothing has gone wrong. Cold hands often feel pain when warmth first returns. A guarded heart may feel fear when tenderness comes close. You might name the pattern softly. This is the fear that kindness will become control. This is the fear that receiving will cost me later. This is the habit of protecting myself before I know what is happening. This is the old winter in the body, not as criticism, not as a command, only as awareness, placing a small lamp near the feeling. And now, if it feels right, imagine moving one hand slightly closer to the cloth bundle. Only slightly, maybe not touching it yet. Maybe only feeling a hint of warmth through the air. Let that be enough. The warmth does not chase you. It does not say, "Why are you still afraid?" It does not demand that you become open. It does not turn away because you need time. Perhaps, after another breath, you might let one fingertip touch the cloth, or perhaps not. Both are welcome. If you imagine touching it, let the contact be very light. The cloth is warm, but not too warm. The heat reaches you through a layer, softened by fabric. This matters. The cloth is the boundary. The warmth does not break through your skin. It meets you with protection still present. Maybe this is what safe receiving feels like at first. Not being overwhelmed, not being rushed, not being asked to melt immediately. Just warmth through cloth, just nearness with a boundary, just a small experience that says, perhaps not all gentleness is trying to take something. If the body allows, imagine placing the bundle into both palms. Let it rest there. You do not need to close your fingers around it. You do not need to hold tightly. Let the rice carry its own warmth. Let the cloth hold its own shape. Let your hands receive without grabbing, without pushing away. And if the hands in the imagination tremble, let them tremble. If they stay stiff, let them be stiff. If they soften a little, let that happen quietly. No one needs to know. No one needs to praise you. No one needs to measure the progress of your heart. This is a private moment of patient nearness. Take a slow breath. The warmth remains. Take another. The hands remain. Take another. The guarded place does not have to disappear. Now perhaps, place one worry into the cloth bundle. Not all of your fear, not the whole history, just one small worry that appears when kindness comes close. Maybe the worry says, they will change. Maybe it says, I will owe them. Maybe it says, if I need this, I will become weak. Maybe it says, if I enjoy warmth, losing it will destroy me. Let that worry become very small, like a grain of uncooked rice, hard and pale. Place it inside the bundle, among the warm rice already. Be there. Watch how the worry does not vanish, but it changes temperature. It is held among warmth. It is not alone in the cold. This is not magic. It is not instant healing. It is only a new relationship. Fear can be present without being the only thing in your hands. Suspicion can be noticed without being obeyed at once. Tenderness can be near without forcing the whole heart open. Now let the image soften. Perhaps the blue cloth grows a little warmer in your palms. Perhaps the steam is barely visible, like a breath on winter air. Perhaps your hands are still cold at the edges, but less painfully so at the center. Perhaps the fingers uncurl by a small degree, not because they were commanded, but because warmth has been patient. Return now to the room you are actually in. Feel the blanket. Feel the pillow. Feel the air at your face. Hear any distant sound that comes and passes. Let the imagined bundle remain in your palms or nearby. Wherever feels safest, you can put it down at any time. You can come back whenever you are ready. You do not need to carry it all night if that feels like too much. You do not need to prove that you are healed by holding warmth longer than you want to. The practice is simply this: to notice the old closing, to honor why it came, and to let one gentle thing remain near for one breath more than before. Maybe tomorrow, kindness will still feel complicated. Maybe someone's softness will still make you suspicious. Maybe a compliment will still be hard to receive. Maybe help will still feel dangerous. That does not mean you failed tonight. It only means the hands were cold for a long time. They will need patience, warmth, and many small moments of safety. For now, nothing needs to be forced. Nothing needs to be opened. Nothing needs to be trusted all at once. Let the body be here. Let the breath be here. Let the cloth bundle rest where it rests. Let warmth come only as close as wisdom allows. And perhaps, for this moment, you can sense the smallest possibility that kindness may wait near you, without becoming a rope, without becoming a debt, without becoming danger. Only warmth, only cloth, only hands learning slowly that they do not have to stay closed forever. Surah. And as that small bundle of warmth rests in the quiet of your imagination, another story can come near. Softer than footsteps in snow. There was once an incense maker named Tavo who lived on the lower road beneath a winter monastery. His hut stood where the pine forest began to climb toward the bell hall, and all through the cold months, a pale ribbon of smoke could be seen rising from his roof. Inside, shelves were lined with bundles of dried cedar, powdered herbs, ground bark, resin, and narrow trays where incense sticks rested in careful rows. Tavo's work was delicate. He knew how much water to add to cedar dust by the sound it made under his fingers. He knew which resin burned too sharply, and which one released its scent slowly, like a memory entering a room without knocking. Monks from the monastery came to him for incense before ceremonies. Travelers bought small bundles for altars at home. Villagers said his incense had a quiet heart. But Tavo himself did not feel quiet. Years before, a wealthy patron had helped him after a fire destroyed his first workshop. The man gave wood, coins, tools, and bowls of rice in the cold season. Tavo had been grateful, more than grateful. He had believed, for a short time, that kindness could arrive without cruelty hidden beneath it. Then the requests began. First, small favors, then unpaid work, then public praise that felt like a hand on the back of his neck. When Tavo hesitated, the patron reminded him of every gift: the wood, the coins, the tools, the rice. In time, the help that once felt like warmth became a cage built from gratitude. Tavo repaid everything he could. He rebuilt his shop with his own hands. He refused the patron's next offer and every offer after that. But the deeper debt stayed in his body. From then on, whenever someone gave him anything, even a cup of tea, even a place beside a fire, he felt the old rope tighten around his breath. So he became careful, too careful. He sold incense at a fair price and accepted no extras. If monks invited him to eat after delivering supplies, he bowed and left. If someone praised his work, he lowered his eyes and changed the subject. If a neighbor brought soup in winter, he returned the bowl, full of dried mushrooms, before sunset. He believed this was freedom, but it was also loneliness wearing the robes of discipline. One dusk, snow began falling. Before Tavo finished binding incense for the monastery bell hall, the air turned thick and grey. Pine branches lowered under the white weight. The road up the hill disappeared, a little at a time, as if the world were being erased from the edges inward. Tavo wrapped the incense bundles in oiled paper and tied them to his chest beneath his cloak. He told himself he would go quickly, deliver them, refuse tea, refuse food, refuse any invitation to stay, and return before the path became dangerous. By the time he reached the bell hall, dusk had deepened into blue shadow. The hall stood apart from the main monastery buildings, built of dark wood on stone steps. Snow gathered along its roof and on the shoulders of the bronze bell hanging inside. The bell was enormous, greened by age in places, polished golden brown where hands had touched it over many years. Oil lamps burned low along the beams. Their light trembled on the floorboards. The air smelled of old bronze, pine smoke, cold stone, and the incense Tavo had brought. Inside the hall sat Seiran, the bell listener. She was blind and had lived near the bell for so long that people said she knew the weather by the way. Silence gathered before the evening strike. She tended the lamps, kept the floor swept, and listened to the bell's fading resonance. After ceremonies, she could recognize monks by their steps, children by the way they held their breath when entering, grieving people by how softly they set down offerings. When Tavo came in, she did not turn her head toward him at once. "You walked faster than the snow wanted you to," she said. He stiffened. "The incense is dry." "I did not ask about the incense." He placed the bundles near the altar shelf. "Then I should go before the path closes." "The path is already closing." Outside, wind pushed snow against the steps in soft bursts. Tavo looked toward the doorway. The lower road had become a pale blur between dark pines. "I can manage." Seiran reached beside her and adjusted the wick of a lamp. Many people can manage harm when they have practiced, refusing shelter. The words made him frown.
"I do not need shelter."
"No," she said. "You need not to owe anyone for it." His hand moved unconsciously to the front of his cloak, where the incense had been tied. There was nothing there now but cloth and the tightening of old memory. Seiran did not ask him to sit. She did not tell him that pride was foolish. She only reached behind a wooden screen and brought out a cracked clay warming bowl. It was round and shallow, with a dark line running along one side where it had once broken and been repaired. Inside was rice, still warm, covered by a square of white cotton cloth. She placed it on the floor beside him, not directly before him, but near enough that its warmth touched the cold air around his hands. Tavo stepped back. "I have eaten." "No, I will eat when I return." "Perhaps." "I do not take food from the monastery. It is not from the monastery." He looked at the bowl. "Then from whom?" Seiran smiled faintly. "From rice, from water, from fire, from the novice who forgot to eat it before chanting practice. If you need a debt, you may thank the stove." Tavo did not smile. The bowl sat there between them, covered in white cloth. Steam gathered beneath the fabric and lifted it barely, then let it fall. "I do not want it," he said. "You do not have to want it." "I will not eat it." "You do not have to eat it." "I will not thank you for it." "You do not have to thank me." His irritation sharpened, because there was nothing to push against. A person who demanded gratitude could be refused. A person who disguised control as generosity could be exposed. But Seiran only sat in the lamplight, her blind eyes lowered, her hands resting on her knees, as if the bowl had no ambition beyond warmth. This made Tavo uneasy. Kindness without pressure felt unfinished to him, like a sentence waiting to reveal its trap. The snow thickened. No one came from the main monastery. The bell hall grew quieter, wrapped in winter. Tavo remained standing longer than was natural. His feet hurt from the climb. His fingers were cold, though he had curled them inside his sleeves. The bowl remained near him, heat passing through the cotton, gentle and patient. At last, because standing seemed more foolish than sitting, he lowered himself onto the floor. But he sat far from the bowl. Seren listened. You sit like a man guarding a door that is already open. Tavo looked toward her sharply. You speak as if you know me. I know the sound of refusal, she said. But the wind struck the hall, and snow hissed along the outer wall. The lamps bent and recovered. Somewhere in the monastery, a wooden clapper sounded once, calling the evening strike. A young monk entered, bowed, and took the suspended log used to sound the bell. Tavo looked down. He did not like ceremonies. He did not like being drawn into other people's reverence. He preferred to deliver what was needed and leave before anyone could turn his presence into belonging. The monk drew the log back. The bronze bell sounded. Its first note was deep enough to seem older than the hall itself. It filled the wooden beams, entered the floor, trembled in the oil lamps, and passed through the cold air like a great warm animal breathing. Once the sound moved into Tavo's chest before he could protect himself from it. The cracked clay bowl vibrated. The white cloth trembled. Tavo saw the rice beneath it shift slightly with the sound. The bell's resonance slowly widened, then thinned. It did not end quickly. It continued in the body after the ear could no longer hold it clearly. Tavo felt it along his ribs, in the hollows of his palms, in the old guarded place that had learned to turn every gift into a possible chain. His eyes moved again to the bowl. The crack in the clay was visible now, lit by the lamp. It curved along the side, like a dark river. On pale earth, the bowl was damaged, repaired, but not hidden, and still it held warmth. Still it carried rice. Still it did what a bowl was meant to do, not because it had never been broken, but because the break had not become its only truth. For a moment, Tavo forgot to resist. Then a small sound came from the doorway. A novice stood there, younger than the monk who had struck the bell, perhaps 12 years old, shivering in a robe too thin for the storm. He held a stack of folded altar cloths and looked embarrassed to have entered during the fading sound. Seren turned her face toward him. You forgot your rice. The novice bowed quickly. I will eat after I put these away. His teeth touched once from cold. Tavo looked at the warming bowl. The old habit moved in him. Keep distance. Do not touch what is offered. Do not become part of the exchange. Do not owe. Do not give. Do not receive. Stay clear. Then he noticed his own hands. They were half open on his knees, not fully relaxed, not trusting, but not fists. He inhaled. The bell's last vibration was still somewhere in the wood. Tavo reached for the bowl. He did not eat from it. He did not claim it. He did not make a speech. He only slid it across the floor toward the novice, careful to keep the cloth over the rice so the warmth would stay. Hold this first, he said. The novice looked startled, then grateful. He crouched and placed both hands around the cracked bowl. His shoulders lowered almost immediately. No one praised Tavo. No one said he had changed. Seren did not even smile in his direction. And because no one made the moment large, it remained honest. Tavo felt the old suspicion return, but it returned more quietly. It asked whether this kindness would cost him. It asked whether allowing warmth to move through his hands meant he was becoming foolish again. It asked whether the world could still use gentleness against him. He did not answer the questions. He simply watched the novice warm his hands. And in that watching, something small shifted. He understood that refusing every bowl had not freed him from the old patron. In a hidden way, it had kept the patron near. Every rejected cup, every declined meal, every kindness treated as danger had been another moment of letting that old harm decide the shape of the present. This realization did not make him trust the world. It did not make him ready to accept every offer. But it did show him that suspicion, too, can become a master. The novice carried the bowl to a corner and ate quietly. Siren adjusted another lamp. Snow continued, laying itself over the steps outside. Tavo stayed in the hall until the path could be cleared. Before he left the next morning, Siran handed him the empty cracked bowl. "For your hut," she said. His body tightened. She heard it somehow. "You may refuse." He stood with the bowl in his hands. It was cool now, light, ordinary. The crack ran beneath his thumb. "What would I owe?" Siren touched the bronze bell gently with 2 fingers. "When it rings," she said. "Do you owe the bell your echo?" Tavo looked down at the bowl. He almost gave it back. Then he bowed, not deeply, not dramatically, and wrapped it in his cloak beside the incense papers. On the way home, the morning snow shone softly on the pines. His steps were careful. His heart remained guarded. But inside his cloak, the cracked bowl touched his side, and he did not feel chained by its weight. Not free of fear, not untouched by memory, only walking with one small warmth he had not pushed away. Sur. And perhaps, dear friend, this is where the story begins to move from the old bell hall into the hidden chambers of your own heart. Because fear of kindness is not simple. It is not only a thought that says, "Be careful." It is often a whole inner world built around the memory of warmth becoming unsafe. It can live in the body before the mind has words for it. It can appear in the stomach when someone is patient with you. It can appear in the throat when someone says they care. It can appear in the hands when help is offered and you do not know whether to reach out or pull away. This fear is not foolish. It is a form of intelligence that once tried to keep you alive, protected, less exposed to disappointment. But when protection forgets how to soften, it can begin to create the very loneliness it was trying to prevent. The first, pain, is what life brought. Someone may have been gentle, then harmful. Someone may have given care, then used that care to control you. Someone may have promised safety, then disappeared. Someone may have apologized, then repeated the same wound. Someone may have loved you only when you were easy, grateful, quiet, or useful. That first pain was real. It entered the body. It taught the nervous system to watch closely. It gave the heart reasons to close. But then the second pain begins when the mind says, "Because that happened, I must never let warmth come close again." Because one kindness became a chain. Every kindness must be inspected as if it is already a chain. Because one person changed, every gentle voice is only waiting to change. Because I was hurt. When I opened, I must make distance my home. This second pain is often quieter than the first, but it lasts longer. It turns the world into a place where every soft thing must prove it is not dangerous before you can breathe near it. It makes love feel like a test. It makes comfort feel like a trap. It makes compliments feel suspicious. Apologies feel staged. Patience feel temporary. And affection feel like something that may disappear the moment you begin to need it. And because the mind is trying to control pain, It may begin rehearsing disappointment before disappointment has arrived. Maybe someone sends a kind message and the mind immediately begins preparing. For the moment, they will withdraw. Maybe someone offers help, and you imagine the future debt before the present kindness has even touched you. Maybe someone stays gentle during your fear, and instead of receiving the gentleness, the mind looks for the hidden edge. It says, "Not yet. Wait, they will show their real face soon." This is control wearing the clothing of wisdom. True wisdom notices patterns and protects the heart from real harm. But fear often imitates wisdom by turning every new moment into an old conclusion. It does not ask, "What is actually happening here?" It says, "I already know what will happen." And in that way, the past becomes the only witness allowed to speak. Buddhist wisdom invites us to slow down enough to see this. It does not ask us to trust blindly. It does not ask us to throw away discernment. It asks us to notice the difference between present moment awareness and old fear moving ahead of us. Awareness says, "My chest is tight because kindness is near." Fear says, "Kindness is near. Therefore danger is certain." Awareness says, "I need time before I open." Fear says, "If I open even a little, I will lose myself." Awareness says, "This person's actions will show me who they are over time." Fear says, "Test them now, reject them first, pull away before they can leave." When you can hear the difference, even faintly, the second pain begins to lose some of its power. Resistance also plays a part. The heart resists tenderness, not because tenderness is unwanted, but because wanting tenderness feels vulnerable. To want care is to admit that you can be touched. To receive kindness is to admit that you are not beyond needing. And if needing once led to humiliation, abandonment, or control, then the body may choose the cold room simply because it knows how to survive there. There is a strange safety in familiar loneliness. It hurts, but it is predictable. No one can disappoint the part of you that has already decided not to expect anything. No one can take warmth away if you never let yourself feel warmed. No one can call you dependent if you refuse every bowl before it reaches your hands. But what is protected there? And what is lost? Sometimes the guarded heart believes it has escaped suffering, when really it has only chosen a suffering it can control. The ache of distance may feel safer than the uncertainty of closeness. Suspicion may feel safer than the tenderness of being seen. But slowly, this controlled suffering becomes a small room, and the heart begins to wonder why it cannot breathe. Self-judgment then comes quietly. You may judge yourself for not being able to receive love easily. You may think, "Why am I like this? Why can't I just accept kindness? Why do I ruin good things? Why do I make people prove themselves again and again? Why do I want closeness and then fear it when it comes?" But shame does not thaw the hands. Shame is another winter. Trying to fix yourself through shame only teaches the guarded heart that even your own inner voice is unsafe. If you attack yourself for being afraid, the fear does not vanish. It hides deeper. It becomes more certain that the world, even the inner world, is not gentle enough to open to. Compassion is different. Compassion says, "This fear has a history. This closing has a reason. This suspicion was once an attempt to survive, and now slowly we can learn another way." Compassion does not excuse harmful behavior if fear causes you to hurt others, but it also does not make fear into an enemy. It allows responsibility without self-hatred. It allows healing without violence. It allows you to notice, "I pushed kindness away because I was afraid and I can learn to pause next time. I tested someone because I expected betrayal, and I can learn to speak more honestly. I dismissed a compliment because receiving felt dangerous, and I can let the next kind word rest near me a little longer. This is how the path becomes practical. Not perfect trust, not perfect openness, a breath of space before the old defense takes over. There is also the pain of needing proof before receiving anything. The guarded mind may say, "Show me forever before I accept this moment. Prove. You will never change before I believe your kindness now. Promise. There will never be a cost before I let warmth reach my hands." But no human relationship can offer perfect proof. No one can remove all uncertainty. Even good people are imperfect. Even sincere people have limits. Even safe love is still alive, changing, learning, sometimes clumsy, sometimes quiet, sometimes in need of repair. If you wait for perfect certainty before receiving any warmth, the hands may remain cold for a very long time. This is where Buddhist wisdom becomes tender but honest. Peace is not the absence of uncertainty. Peace is a different relationship with uncertainty. It is not saying, "I know for certain, I will never be hurt again." It is saying, "I can meet this moment with awareness. I can receive slowly. I can watch actions over time. I can keep boundaries. I can let warmth touch me without surrendering my wisdom." There is a middle way between locking the door and throwing it open. There is a way to open a window, a way to let warmth enter through cloth, a way to hold the rice bundle without promising to eat it all, a way to let kindness be one moment of kindness without turning it into a contract or a prophecy. This is not small. For a heart trained by hurt, this is profound. The mind may still replay betrayal. It may show you the old scenes. The moment someone's voice changed, the moment a promise failed, the moment you realized that a gift had a hook hidden inside it. These memories may come, not because you want to suffer, but because the mind is trying to warn you. When they come, perhaps you can say, "Thank you for trying to protect me," and then ask, "Is this memory the same as this moment?" Sometimes the answer may be yes. Sometimes the present really does echo the past, and your body's caution deserves attention. But sometimes the answer may be no. Sometimes this is a different person, a different situation, a different offer, a different pace. Sometimes the warm rice in your hands is only warm rice. And when it is only warm rice, can you let it be that? Just for one breath. The guarded identity may say, "I am someone who cannot trust. I am someone who always gets hurt. I am someone who is safer alone. I am someone who must not need." But identity is often pain, repeated until it sounds like truth. You are not only the one who was hurt, you are also the one who noticed the hurt. You are also the one who survived. You are also the one who can learn. You are also the one whose hands, though cold, can still feel warmth. And maybe this is the beginning of freedom, not becoming a person without fear, but becoming a person who no longer lets fear be the only caretaker of the heart. The first pain may still be part of your story. The second pain does not have to be fed forever. Warmth can come slowly. Trust can grow honestly. Boundaries can remain. And somewhere inside, the heart can begin to understand that receiving kindness in small, careful ways is not the same as losing itself. It is simply allowing one gentle heat to touch the place that has been cold for too long. Sir, and this is where the teaching becomes very close to ordinary life, dear friend. Not only in a market lane, not only in a snowed-in bell hall, not only beside an old bowl or a cloth bundle or the quiet patience of someone who does not demand that the heart open quickly. It appears here in the places where your life actually touches you. It appears when you are waiting for a text. The phone rests beside you, face down or glowing in your hand, and the whole body seems to lean toward it. Maybe someone has been kind to you, and now there is silence. Maybe they said something gentle earlier, and now the mind begins counting the minutes between replies. 1 minute becomes a question. 10 minutes becomes a story. An hour becomes evidence. The body tightens before anything has truly happened. The old winter whispers, "See, warmth is leaving." And maybe, before you know it, you are no longer lying in your room. You are living inside a future. The mind has built from fear. You imagine the change in tone. You imagine the distance. You imagine yourself becoming too much, too needy, too hopeful, too foolish for trusting even a little. In such a moment, peace is not found by forcing yourself not to care. You care. That is why it hurts. Peace begins with one breath before obeying the story, a breath before checking again, a breath before sending the second message from panic instead of presence, a breath before deciding that silence means abandonment. That breath is not small. It is wisdom entering through the smallest door. It is the hand pausing above the warm cloth bundle, noticing both the longing and the fear and not letting either one drag the whole heart away. Not every thought deserves obedience. Not every feeling is a command. A feeling can be real without being the full truth. A thought can be loud without being wise. Fear can arrive with urgency, but urgency is not the same as guidance. You might be lying awake at night, replaying a mistake, something you said, something you failed to say, a moment when you were guarded and wished you had been softer, moment when someone offered kindness and you answered with distance, sarcasm, silence, or suspicion. Then, shame enters quietly and begins its work. It tells you that you ruin good things. It tells you that you are too damaged to be loved gently. It tells you that your fear has made you unworthy of patience. But shame does not teach the heart to receive. It only makes the inner room colder. A wiser response might be softer and more honest. I was afraid. I reacted from an old place. I can repair what can be repaired. I can learn without turning myself into an enemy. This is self-forgiveness, not as an excuse, but as warmth. It is rice, wrapped in cloth, placed near the part of you that feels ashamed. It does not erase responsibility. It makes responsibility possible without hatred, because when you hate yourself for being wounded, you do not become less wounded, you become more alone inside the wound. Maybe you feel behind in life. You look at others and think they receive love more easily, trust more naturally, rest more deeply, move forward without carrying the same hidden alarms. You see their relationships, their calm smiles, their confident choices, and you imagine that everyone else has been given a warmer world than you. But comparisons sees the outside of another life and calls it evidence. You do not know what cold each person has carried. You do not know what they fear when the room goes quiet. You do not know what they cannot receive, what they cannot say, what they pretend not to need. Their hands may look open from a distance, but every heart has its own weather. So when comparison comes, perhaps you can return to the cloth in your palms, not their path, not their timing, not their shape of healing, only this small warmth near your own hands. Your life does not have to thaw at the pace of someone else's. Maybe you try to control a relationship because uncertainty feels unbearable. You read every word closely. You examine every change in rhythm. You ask questions without asking them directly. You test affection by pulling away, then watch to see who follows. You act as if you need nothing, while secretly hoping someone will notice everything. This is not because you are manipulative at your core. It may be because direct need once felt unsafe. It may be because asking openly once brought rejection, ridicule, or control. So the heart learned indirect ways to seek reassurance. It learned to check warmth from a distance. It learned to measure care without admitting how much it wanted care. But you can care deeply without gripping tightly. You can want closeness without turning closeness into surveillance. You can ask more honestly, move more slowly, and still protect your dignity. Sometimes the practice is as simple as saying, "I felt afraid," when I did not hear from you, instead of punishing the other person for not guessing your fear. Sometimes the practice is saying, "I need time to receive this," instead of pretending you do not need anything. Sometimes the practice is saying, "Thank you," and letting the words stand, without immediately pushing the kindness away. A breath before answering is a form of wisdom. A pause before refusing help is a form of healing. Allowing a compliment to rest near you without arguing against it is a quiet act of courage. Someone may say, "You matter to me," and the old habit may answer, "No, I do not." Perhaps, just once, you do not have to fight the compliment or believe it completely. You can let it sit beside you like warm rice on a low wooden crate. You can say nothing for a moment. You can feel how the body reacts. You can notice the tightening, the doubt, the fear of debt. And then, perhaps you can answer simply, "Thank you," not because you are fully convinced, because you are practicing not pushing warmth away before it has even touched the cloth. Maybe you check your phone for reassurance again and again, not because the phone can truly comfort you, but because the heart is asking for proof that it has not been forgotten. Each glance gives a small taste of control, and then the hunger returns. This is how craving can feel in daily life. Not always craving for pleasure, but craving for certainty. Craving for a guarantee. Craving for proof that no one will leave, no one will change, no one will misunderstand you, no one will turn kindness into harm. But life does not give peace through endless checking. The screen can light up a room, but it cannot warm the deepest cold in the hands. So perhaps tonight or tomorrow, when the urge rises, you might place the phone down for one breath. Not forever, not as punishment. Only long enough to feel the body asking for safety. Long enough to offer the heart something steadier than another refresh. A palm on the chest, a slow exhale. The image of warm rice, wrapped in cloth, a simple inner sentence. I am feeling afraid of losing warmth. Naming the fear gently can sometimes soothe what checking cannot. Maybe you smile while feeling heavy inside. You answer people politely. You say you are fine. You keep the tone light because if you reveal how guarded or lonely you feel, you fear becoming a burden. You fear someone will comfort you at first and then resent you later. You fear needing too much, so you become easy to be around and difficult to truly know. Dear friend, there may be tenderness beneath that smile that has waited a long time for honesty. You do not have to reveal everything to everyone. Wisdom chooses where the heart opens, but you also do not have to live as if being real is always dangerous. There may be one person, one moment, one sentence, one small truth that can be offered without pouring out the whole river. I have been more tired than I said. I am not ready to talk fully, but I do not want to disappear. I am grateful, and I am also scared. These are small openings, not surrender, not collapse, not foolish trust. They are like loosening the cloth just enough for steam to rise. Maybe you want rest, but feel guilty for resting. You think you must become healed before you deserve peace. You must answer every message, fix every misunderstanding, improve every flaw, explain every silence, and repair every relationship before the body is allowed to sleep. But you can rest without earning it. Even guarded hearts need sleep. Even unfinished people need warmth. Even someone still learning how to receive kindness is allowed to put down the work of self-protection for a few hours. Peace is practiced in small moments, not as a grand transformation, but as one tiny refusal to abandon yourself, one breath before reacting, one kind word allowed to remain, one fear named without shame, one offer received slowly, one night where you do not turn every uncertainty into a task. The world may still be uncertain tomorrow. People may still be imperfect. Your heart may still be cautious. But something in you can begin to relate differently to all of it. Not with cold rejection, not with desperate grasping, with patient nearness, with cloth between warmth and skin, with hands that do not have to open all at once. And as this teaching follows you into ordinary rooms, ordinary messages, ordinary silences, perhaps you begin to notice that healing is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is the moment you almost close and then pause. Sometimes it is the moment you almost say, I need nothing, and instead admit, I need time. Sometimes it is the moment you almost treat fear as truth and instead let fear sit beside warmth without choosing for you. Tonight, nothing more is needed. The phone can wait. The future can remain unfinished. The heart can be cautious and still be learning. And somewhere inside, the small cloth bundle remains warm enough, near enough, patient enough for the part of you that is not ready to open yet, but is beginning to believe it may not have to stay cold forever. And now perhaps the night can become very quiet around this small warmth. There is nothing more to understand for a while, nothing more to repair, nothing more to examine under the bright light of the mind. The teaching has come close enough. Let it become less like words now and more like heat resting gently in the palms. Feel the body where it is, the blanket, the pillow, the soft weight of the room, the dimness gathered around the edges of your vision, or the darkness behind closed eyes. Perhaps moonlight is touching the window, or lying across the floor in a pale, silent shape. Perhaps the night outside is cool, with trees standing in stillness, leaves barely moving, the world breathing more slowly than it does by day. Let the body begin to follow that slower breathing. In and out. No need to deepen it. No need to make it beautiful. Just let the breath arrive, then leave. Let the forehead soften, as if it no longer has to read every expression. Let the eyes settle, no longer scanning. For the moment kindness changes. Let the jaw loosen, no longer preparing answers to questions. No one is asking tonight. Let the throat rest from all the words it did not know how to say. Let the chest be held as it is, careful if it is careful, tender if it is tender, tired if it is tired. Nothing inside you has to be corrected before sleep. Imagine again the warm rice wrapped in cloth, not far away now, near your hands. The faded blue cloth is soft from many washings. The warmth inside is quiet, steady, ordinary. It does not rise like flame. It does not demand that your fingers uncurl. It does not ask you to prove you are healed by holding it without fear. It only rests there, close enough, patient enough. Kindness, when it is safe, can have this quality. It does not rush the guarded places. It does not shame the coldness. It does not say, open now, believe now, be grateful now. It knows that the hands have their own timing. It knows that warmth must sometimes be felt through cloth before it can be received directly. Let your palms grow heavy, whether they are truly holding anything or resting empty on the blanket. Let them feel the image. Warmth under fabric, a small weight, a quiet offering that has no hook inside it. You may sleep before you trust everything. You may sleep before you understand every fear. You may sleep before every relationship feels clear. You may sleep with questions still unanswered, with tenderness still complicated, with the heart still learning the difference between danger and nearness. For tonight, you do not have to solve the whole story of love. You do not have to decide what every silence means. You do not have to replay the message, the conversation, the look, the pause, the old memory, the possible future. Let those things step back from the bed. Let them become distant, like a market after the stalls have closed, like a bell hall after the final sound has faded into wood and snow. Let the mind stop carrying them from one corner of the night to another. It has carried enough. If a thought comes, let it be a thought. If fear comes, let it be fear. If longing comes, let it be longing. None of them need to become a command. A thought may say, be careful. You can answer with breath. A feeling may say, pull away. You can answer with softness. A memory may say, this will happen again. You can answer, maybe, but not every warmth is the old warmth. And then no more arguing, only the breath, only the body, only the warmth in the palms. Let the shoulders sink as much as they are able. Let the back spread into the surface beneath you. Let the belly loosen around its quiet work. Let the legs become heavier. Let the feet stop holding the day. The body knows how to return to sleep when the mind stops demanding proof of safety from every corner of life. Not perfect safety, not permanent certainty, just enough safety for this breath, enough safety for this blanket, enough safety for these hands to rest without closing so tightly. Perhaps this is the feeling of returning home, not to a place where nothing painful ever happened, not to a self who was never hurt, but to the small inner room where warmth can wait without pressure, where your guarded heart is not scolded for guarding, where the younger part of you, the careful part, the part that learned to expect the cost behind kindness, can sit down near the rice bundle and not be hurried. Let that part of you sit. Let it keep its distance if it needs distance. Let it move closer if it wants to. Let it simply be near enough to feel that warmth exists. There is no ceremony required, no grand release, no sudden opening of the whole heart. Only the smallest thawing, only the gentlest nearness, only a quiet room in the middle of the night, and the possibility that receiving may one day feel less dangerous. The moonlight outside does not force the window open. It rests where it can, on the sill, on the floor, on the edge of a curtain. It offers itself in silence, and the room receives it according to its own shape. Let kindness be like that. Tonight, let it touch only what is ready. Let it leave the rest untouched. Let sleep come in the same way, not as something you must achieve, but as something that may gather around you slowly. Around the feet, around the legs, around the hips, around the shoulders, around the quiet face, around the hands that have been cold for so long, the breath becomes softer, The room becomes farther. The body becomes heavier. Warm rice, soft cloth, closed hands learning they are not being forced. Warm rice, soft cloth, a heart allowed to take its time. You can stop watching for danger in this room for a little while. You can let the phone remain still. You can let tomorrow wait outside the door. You can let unfinished conversations stay unfinished until morning. You can let your life be unresolved and still enter sleep. Because sleep does not ask you to be certain. It only asks you to release your grip for a few hours. Let the grip loosen, a little, then a little more, if it comes naturally. Let the old winter remain outside the blanket. Tonight, let the warmth stay near your palms. Let the heart feel, not loudly, not completely, but faintly, that it has not been abandoned to the cold. And as you drift, perhaps the cloth bundle remains beside you in the moonlit quiet, still warm enough for the guarded heart, still patient enough for the hands that are not ready to open all the way. What if, tonight, kindness does not need to enter by force, but can wait softly beside you until fear forgets to hold the door?